Good day, everyone. We are now in lesson 2. We are the reporters of this topic, Igor Saisamay S., Imperado Inalin M., Garanzo Hans Daniel, and Garciano Shaya Hana Ara. But before we will start, I want you to know, or to say, or guess rather, what does these pictures means? Yes, this is sculpture. Today, we will discuss what is sculpture. For today's video, the learning outcomes at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to A. Define sculpture, B. Distinguish the different types of sculpture, C. Discuss elements of sculpture, and D. Demonstrate the skill in carving. What is a sculpture? The word sculpture originates from the Latin word sculpere, which means to carve. It is the art or practice of creating three-dimensional forms or figures. Well, it is easy to understand, ang sculpture daw is galing sa Latin word na sculpere, means to carve in English or mag-ukit in Tagalog. It is the art or practice of creating three-dimensional forms or figures. You know what is 3D, right? Which is holistically viewable. This is a three-dimensional forms of sculpture where we can see all the sides, the back, the front, and the two sides of the sculpture or the object. That is what sculpture is, to carve and a practice of creating three-dimensional forms or figures. Sculptures can be freestanding or in the round, able to be viewed from all sides. As I said, this is an example of three-dimensional forms or freestanding, where we are able to see the whole side of the object and holistically able to appreciate the art. Or they can be in relief. In relief, this is an example of relief sculpture. In relief sculpture, rather, it is a form where it is carved or modeled from a flat background plane. Well, mo ni siya nga itong ginahimo, no? Like in the soap carving, it's an example of in relief sculpture. We cannot see the 360 view of the sculpture, but this is also a sculpture where it is carved from the hard materials. It is also sculpture, guys. So trivia lang, no? As we all know what is sculpture, the person who makes sculpture is called sculptor, and the sculpture is an art. That's the difference. I hope you get it. Next is the most enduring and arguably the greatest form of fine art known to man. Sculpture has made a major role in the evolution of Western culture. Then, the most enduring and arguably the greatest form of fine art known to man, sculpture has played a major role in the evolution of Western culture. Why? Because sculpture gave us the opportunity to become more engaging. In addition of it is a 3D form of art that allow us to holistically appreciate the object. It is a key indicator of the cultural achievements of classical antiquity and became an important influence in the development of Renaissance art in Italy. Sculpture art is an effective art in giving us a message. It tells us stories. It enables us to showcase a history of one's place. That is why it has great contribution of Renaissance art development in Italy before. So makita jud nato no nga ato mabantayan nga ang mga art, sculptures, paintings, or unsa pa ba na nga kind of art sa Italy before in the Renaissance period. It is an art where it expresses a history. It showcases the past. No, dako jud tabang pod ang sculpture even today, although continuously evolving. sculpture is still the leading method of expressing and commemorating both historical figures and events. During its history, it has attracted some of the world's greatest artists. So, while na popular in sculpture, many people kay na attract ani nga sculptures and naka-create sila og artistic kind of art like Phidias, Myron of Eleutherae, Polycletos, Scopas, Lysippus, Praxiteles, and Leocharis, as well as Donatello from 1386 to 1466, Michelangelo 1475 to 1654, and many more. These artists are able to express what they feel, as well as to showcase what their history is all about before. The works of these artists can be found in many of the best art museums. For example, the Accademia Gallery Museum in Florence, where we are able to view the Michelangelo's work of art. As I said, this is Michelangelo, and these are his one of examples in his sculpture art. Very creative, right? Full of information. We have now a new slide, the ever-expanding art form. Why? Because the definition or meaning of sculpture has widened a great deal during the 20th century. With the development of new sculptural tools and technology, contemporary works now employ such a huge variety of new materials, techniques, and spatial schemes of reference that sculpture is no longer a fixed term, which refers to a fixed category of objects or creative activities, but rather an ever-expanding art form that is constantly evolving and redefining itself. Or in simple words, as time goes by, we are able to develop how we live. We became more technologically advanced. So, the sculpture art ay wala po siya nagpahuli sa development. It ables to redefine itself. The advancement of the world helps the sculpture to upgrade what it is used to be. Later on, we will be enlightened what does upgrade ang nahitabo sa sculpture. Definition of traditional sculpture. Traditional sculpture prior to the 20th century had four main defining characteristics. First, it was the only three-dimensional art form. Second, it was representational. When we said representational, it represents what it represents. For example, a banana sculpture inspired from banana fruit. Third, it was viewed as an art of solid form. Sculpture daw kay makita nimo siya gikan sa solid form like wax, clay, wood, mud, and many more. Fourth, traditional sculptors used only two main techniques, carving or modeling. The models for traditional sculpting derive from Greek and Roman sculpture of classical antiquity. Basic form of sculpture now outdated. Yes, tama siya. Ma-outdate ang sculpture. Mas akong giyon kagaina as time evolves, as there is slowly development in the world, sculpture is able to abide that development too. Previously, the history of art understood only two basic sculptural forms, sculpture in the round or reliefs. So, dati daw na lang duha ka klase, basic nga sculpture. Katong around, katong ma-viewed 360, or in relief, katong like example sa soap carving. But nowadays, there are new forms of sculpture. Light-related sculptures and mobile sculptures necessitate a redefinition of possible forms. The next slide is the examples of light-related sculpture and mobile sculpture for you to become more enlightened. This is a 3D hologram. Mobile sculpture this is its example. So when we say light-related sculpture, it came from the light bulbs, the sun, the laser beams as the primary medium of expression. As we can see, wala na jud siya nagamit og clay, wax, or woods as a medium of carving here, no? Mo ni siya ang technologically advanced sculpture. Mobile sculpture is not literally mobile kanato ni balaan nga cellphone, but it means an abstract sculpture that has moving parts due to winds or motors. Creative no beautiful. Next is definition of modern and contemporary sculpture. The art of sculpture is no longer restricted by traditional sculptural concepts, meaning wala na lang siya naglimit kung unsa siya dati. Materials na gigamit og ang methods of productions kay nausab na pud siya. It is no longer exclusively representational but frequently wholly abstract. Nor is it purely solid and static. It may reference empty space in an important way and can also be kinetic and capable of movement. Easy to understand. Dili na daw siya naka-stay put lang. Finally, as well as being carved or modeled, it can be assembled, glued, projected, or constructed in a wide variety of ways. As a result, the traditional four-point meaning and definition of sculpture no longer applies. Definition and meaning of sculpture today. The sheer diversity of 21st century plastic art has left us with only one defining characteristic: three-dimensionality. Thus, the current definition of sculpture is something like this. Sculpture is the only branch of visual arts that is specifically concerned with expressive three-dimension form. Simple. After all the developments of sculpture as time evolves, there is only one thing that remains what sculpture is. Sculpture is still remained a 3D form of art. No, biskan pa na upgrade or na level up ang sculpture today, it still able us to showcase the three-dimension view of an object. Basic sculptural techniques. First is modeling. Is the process of manipulating soft materials that can be shaped by the sculptor's hands to create a three-dimensional forms. Because the artist adds materials to build the sculpture, modeling is an additive process. Media for modeling include clay, plaster, paper mache, and wax. We, the one who makes the sculpture, has the ability to create a form by using our hands. Sama ani si artist kay ginahulman niya ang wax or clay ba ni gamit ang iyang hands to create a new form. Modeling is an additive process, meaning ang soft materials is worked by the artist to build up a shape or forms. As diba, our body heat will serve to soften the clay or wax, making it easier for us to create new face or new smooth for faces rather. Muna siya ang example sa modeling. Modeling kay nagamit siya og hands. Naga-press lang ng modeling, guys. Next is carving. Dating from prehistoric times, carving is a process in which the artist subtracts or cuts away a solid material to reach the desired form. Simple, ang carving daw is ang pagtanggal sa other parts sa clay, wax, or woods to create a form. Pares ani nagtanggal siya para makahimo siya og 3D nga ear or realistic ear. Because the artist subtracts to reveal the sculpture, carving is a subtractive process whereby materials is systematically or purposely eliminated or cuts from the materials. Sama sa akong giingon, subtractive process, kay nagtanggal man ta, that is why it's called subtractive process. It can be a very painstaking and time-consuming method because of its unforgiving nature. One piece is carved off the solid form, it cannot be put back. So lisod jud daw kaya ni carving no kay aside sa sakit ni siya na or hassle ni siya nga class nga style sa paghimog sculpture, kuan pa ni siya kanang tricky. Kung imo na siyang natanggal sa soap, sa wax, sa wood, dili na nimo siya mabalik, no? Kailangan perfect yun imong pagtanggal para dili ka mamali-mali. So that is where my discussion will end. The next reporter will discuss what is casting. Thank you for listening, guys.